you've got to get those out of the way. The faster that you run into the wall, the sooner you're going to figure out how to climb over it. And success is not going around the wall, and it's not backing up from the wall, but it's finding a way to climb over it. A lot of people think of business as a crock pot, right? And I think this is what gets people disappointed. They think, well, I'm going to put in 3, 4, 5, 6 months to this thing. And then, man, it's just going to be a money machine for me. And I'm going to Rachel Ray it, man. I'm going to set it and forget it. And it's just going to keep paying me. Maybe there's businesses like that out there. I don't know. Generally, you're always going to have these challenges that you're going to have in business. You just have to realize that when these things come up and you get punched in the mouth, there is always a solution. It might be expensive. It might hurt. It might not be what you want to do, but your job is just to do whatever it takes to minimize it, to overcome it, to put it to bed, to put it to rest, to learn from it. You're not failing, you're learning.
Yo, this is the Streetwise podcast. We're here to help you level up your game, level up your leadership, and level up your life. I'm your host, Matthew McReynolds. I'm a multi-brand franchisee, and I'm a franchise consultant, which means I help people find, launch, and build their ideal franchise business. Our main goal is to help you get off of zero and become the person that your dreams need you to be. Buckle up, get your popcorn ready. Let's go. All right, Streetwise Nation. We got Jeff Dudan on the show with us today. Mr. Jeff, how you doing?
Matthew, I'm doing well. Thank you for having me on. I'm excited to be here.
Man, I just appreciate you hopping on. I told you that before we pressed record, but this is a big deal for me. So hopefully I do this interview justice. If you could explain for the people what your role is, what organization you lead, and how does that impact your day to day?
Sure. So my name is Jeff Dudan. I am the CEO and really the compiler. I would say founder, but man, we've got partners in the business. We've done a really good job about attracting talent. And when you attract talent, there's a big what's in it for them. But I guess I'll say founder of Homefront Brands, which is one of the fastest growing property service franchise platforms in North America today. We're in the US and we're in Canada. And so property services are things like we have a company that does cabinets. We have a fencing company. We got an exterior house washing business. We've got a B2B business that does temporary walls in hospitals, airports, places like that. We have a company called Yard Patrol, which does spraying for mosquitoes and ticks and fleas, and also some weed treatments and things like that. So when you think about property services, most of what we do is in and around the home, things that people don't want to do. So we're the do it for you group that comes out and makes sure that we give you back your time and your manicured fingernails and we save your back and all that kind of stuff.
Man, did 18-year-old Jeff Dudan have any idea that, I don't know how old you are. You look no older than 39.
I'll say it, man.
Because I just turned 34. So you got a couple years on me, but you're big brother to me, man. Did 18-year-old Jeff have any idea what this part of your life would look like? Did you have a vision for it back then?
That's a really interesting question. And if I was going to be extrospective, meaning if there was a camera in the corner of the room watching 18-year-old Jeff roll around and do what he did, Jeff was somebody that I had a very unstructured upbringing from our family situation. Parents were, people go through a divorce. It's kind of like quiet quitting though. There wasn't really a good home structure for me, probably from middle school on, and, parents off doing their own thing. So, I could run around at all hours of the night during high school. And, fortunately, the one thing that I loved to do was athletics. I was a gym rat. I played basketball. I grew up outside of Chicago. So indoor basketball, rec centers all day, all weekend, outdoor basketball, pay and pickup games anywhere that we could do it. And, and then as you get into running groups of friends, I probably had a college experience in high school. And so by the time Jeff was 18, Jeff was already probably going, trying to figure out like how to make some order out of chaos in his life.
Okay.
And I had gone away. I was not a great student. My kids found a big bag of old memorabilia in there. One was my recruiting package that my high school coach put together. And, it had my kids are all, man, they're all like top class type guys and all that. And then I had a 2.56 grade point average, coming out of high school, which is, all the other 2.56ers out there, nothing personal, but you can
Shout
do
out
better.
2.56ers.
Yeah, man. I'm from the 2.56.
Yeah, me
I was
too.
from the
Me
I was from
too.
the I was from the 312. But no, but I mean, like, so when you grow up without a net, I'm going to tell you that it can be the greatest advantage. And I'm so thankful. I moved my mom down here 3 years ago to be close to us so we could take care of her and give her what she needs. My dad passed during COVID. My dad was a great guy, just very kind, congenial guy, like just everybody's favorite dad. He's a good guy. So, I had good parents, but like, when you take them individually, but we just didn't maintain that family unit. And I don't blame anybody for it. And at the end of the day, man, I'm really, really thankful for it because, look, I cook. Like I'm a really, really good cook. You know why I
All
cook?
right.
Because I needed to eat.
Yeah.
So I learned like I've been cooking for myself since I was 14 years old, man, like breakfast, lunch, dinner, largely. So that's become a passion of mine. So I wouldn't have, my desire to cook and my interest in chefs and I love to put on a big meal for family and people like that today. You grow up without a net. And there's no further down that you can go than zero. So like even if I lost everything I had today, it doesn't even scare me because you have I know that I could make it back. Like I've made it so many times in so many ways from zero. And during my career, what that allowed me to do is probably push a little bit farther into
Yeah, for sure.
discomfort, create inflection points in my business. When I felt like we were stuck in business, I shared this story the other day. It was the mid 90s and I had this restoration business and I kind of knew where we wanted to go with it. So we needed to stop doing a couple of the service offerings that I didn't think were going to be part of the franchise model. And we were trying to do it, but it was 95% of what we did. 95% of our revenue, I didn't think was the right mix of revenue that we needed to do. And I couldn't get my team. I wasn't a good enough manager or a leader to be able to pursue that new path while still servicing the old path. So I came in on a Sunday to the office and you've probably never seen this, but there used to be these things called thermal fax machines. So anyway, we actually used to have to, if we wanted to communicate, we would have to print a letter out on letterhead and then put it in a machine and dial a phone number and it would send. Okay.
Yeah, man, I don't know anything about that.
Yeah, well, it's called fax. Look it up.
Okay.
But so anyway, so I came in on the weekend and I printed out 33 of these letters to our 33 biggest customers who were insurance adjusters and insurance companies. And I told them that effective immediately, we were no longer providing these services. And the fax would give you this little piece of paper that was kind of a proof that it sent. So I took that little piece of paper and I laid those all out on our conference table with the proof that I sent these out. And then I let our team come in and see that I had basically just killed our business. And we went dead flat. We were doing millions of dollars, man. Like we went and probably had 15, 20 people and we went dead flat. And I said, well, so now here's what we have to do is we have to develop these other services and we got to do that. So that's an inflection point. Creating a crisis when a business reaches entropy and reaches friction, right? There's this, if you get my book Discernment, it's in there, but there's this curve that looks like an S and your business starts goes down when you make the investment, and then it starts going up, up, up. But it goes to this other point where you're going to reach constraints, and you start to see friction. So what does friction looks like? Well, friction is you stop returning calls, you start getting bad reviews, you start losing employees because they don't understand what their role inside of it is. There's conflicts that are happening. That's an indicator that you need to look past the next crisis point, and that you need to see what the future is beyond the next reorganization that's required. And then you need to take everything that you're doing and put it out on the curb and only bring the things back in the building, systems, processes, people, procedures that are going to get you to that next level of growth.
Wow.
So I didn't understand that. And I teach that all the time. But what I was doing was I was saying, we're up against this glass ceiling that we can't bump through. We're just going deeper into services that I don't think are going to be part of our future. So I've got to create a crisis, and I've got to create the space for this team to go out and create the new future. And that's what we did. So when you grow up kind of like I did, I was 18, I moved back. So I wasn't, and then, so we got a new football coach, and the guy's name was Tom Sarasani, and he wanted to throw the football, and his name was Air Sarasani. So
Okay.
we had a kid that didn't know he was a quarterback, that ended up playing 11 years in the NFL under this guy's coaching. He recruited me off the basketball team. He recruited another guy off the basketball team. And we put in this throwing offense before my junior year, which was going to be my first year ever playing football. I set the record for receptions my junior year, high school record. And then my senior year, I broke it again, which stood for 20 plus years. It was 56 receptions
Okay.
over the
Let's go.
season. So, but I wasn't really good. Like, I didn't have the blocking, the tackling. I didn't really have the mechanics of it. I just really knew how to catch the ball and fall down, basically. So,
That yard after catch wasn't your best stat.
no, there's not a lot of yaks, man.
Not a lot of yaks. Okay.
So I ended up walking on to the University of Northern Iowa, which is in Cedar Falls, Iowa. Great program, has a dome. Allowed me to come in with my grades, and Kurt Warner was there. That was Kurt Warner's college.
Okay.
A little bit after me, I played against a guy named Bryce Pop, who was a freshman defensive end, and I was a scout team tight end. And he ended up playing in the NFL for a lot of years. A good player. And then I didn't do the schoolwork, and I started getting into the football stuff. So I decided to drop back to a junior college in Chicago. I was there for 2 years, and then I got a football scholarship out to Appalachian State, where I had a great career. Met my wife like immediately there, February 2nd, 1989. I showed up in January. So, so that she took on the project, thank goodness. And
Praise God.
Yeah, still work in progress. And then, got serious about school, got a marketing degree, and had a great football career. And I started what was my first real material business, which was a painting business with college athletes doing painting student housing apartments during lease change.
Very interesting. What part of Chicago are you from?
Northwest suburb, Schaumburg.
Okay, Schaumburg. Yeah. So I went to Wheaton College.
Right?
Lived in the Wheaton area for 4 years. And then after I graduated, I went to the inner city on the west side and lived in Humboldt Park for almost 2 years, working at a school. So I'm familiar, man. That's really cool. I'm curious, and there's so much I want to unpack, because that was quite a bit, but we'll get to it. How do you recreate the necessity, the chaos within your own family? Because it sounds like your upbringing might have been a little bit different than your kids' upbringing, and I don't want to assume that the success you've seen now, it for sure wasn't that way when you first started having kids. I mean, you've built this thing over time, but I know that my parents' lives were very different than my upbringing, and my kids got it made compared to how I feel like I had it growing up. And so there's almost, being a parent, you almost have to recreate the adversity. How have you been able to intentionally do that with your kids, with all the business and everything, the sports background? Has that been something that's been intentional with you and your wife as you raise them?
That's such a great question. And I think the answer to that is, I think I think it's so simple and basic.
Okay.
It really is, because children today are faced with so much that I didn't have to be faced with growing up. I
Yeah.
mean, first
True.
of all, like if I had an idea, there was no machine that I could type it into and then be disappointed because everybody else has already done it.
Mm.
So when I came up with something, you could literally be too stupid to fail, and you could just say, I'm going to do this. And you just, there was nobody telling you that, it was a bad idea and it wouldn't work. So then if you iterate on that idea, kids today have, access to things on the internet that steal their attention. Our will is an exhaustible resource, right? So like, we all have a battery, and the biggest thing about your battery that you need to know is that like there's who you are as a person, and there's who you need to be professionally at work or in other roles. And the size of your battery determines how long you can be somebody that's really against your nature or your will.
Wow.
So
Okay.
so when you wake up every morning, like the first thing that you do, first thing you look on your phone, it starts burning like your resources for the day. And think about that with social media. I mean, like do I need to check on my TikTok? We do a podcast too, right? So it's like, do I need to answer questions? We have a Facebook group. Like, where do I start slicing my attention and start giving it to these platforms? Or do I make the decision that I can do more with my attention than they can? And
Hmm.
that's really the question. Who can do the most with the attention that you have if you choose to give it? Is it to your projects and your stuff? Is it to Facebook? Is it to Instagram? Like, that's a big decision. So when you're not fully formed as a human and you're looking for validation, significance, and confidence, and you pour into these platforms, like now you're rewired in such a way that we didn't have. The other thing is kids have so many opportunities now. I think at least my kids do. Not all kids do, but I mean, for me, I started the painting business because I was broke in the summer. My problem was rent was going to be due in 10 days. I needed an apartment over the summer. My scholarship didn't cover it. $3.35 an hour plus tips, which was the only jobs available. Even if I could get one, it wasn't going to cut it. So like, most entrepreneurs are kind of screwed into existence by the situations that they face. So,
Facts.
right. So I needed,
Facts.
I needed money, and,
Yeah.
so like, and I like, well, I knew how to do concrete. I knew how to do moving and storage. I knew how to do construction, but I also worked for a painting contractor, and I knew I could afford a paintbrush and a ladder. So like, that was it. Like that seemed to be my only option. So where my kids today have had so many great opportunities, but I mean, to your question specifically, very close family, great relationship with all of our kids, still married, and there's a couple of things that I observed that are subtle but significant. So number one is never lie to your kids. So
Hmm.
when you think about what your parents tell you to protect you or to save you or to obscure the real world from you or to protect your feelings, all you're teaching your kids is that they can't trust you to tell the truth,
Wow.
right? The dog ran away. No, it didn't. I accidentally ran over it. you know, those are, you didn't make the team because of schedules, or you didn't make the team because those kids are older. No, you didn't make the team. Like you didn't make it, so now you've got a problem or not. You can decide it's worth doing. You can practice more. You can decide that it's not a good fit for you because you don't have the physical skills to be this type of a sport. So you might want to try a different one. But like at the end of the day, I think the age of accountability for children is, I told my kids, I said, it was 14 years old. And
Okay.
if there's like, if I haven't taught you not what to think, but how to think by 14, and if I haven't taught you the ability to identify between right and wrong by the age of 14, then there's nothing that I can tell you when you're in high school. So basically, I feel like I did. I mean, I can almost, I never even remember disciplining my older child. I can't even think of one situation where I disciplined them, because like I just gave them what I thought was the toolkit, mostly by example, but also through coaching. spending time in the car with your kids, going through stressful situations through athletics or whatever it is you choose to do with them. Like that's the time where the lessons are built. And then basically, at 14, I said, I've taught you how to think and it's your job to do it. And I'm not going to rescue you from your own mistakes or problems. So, because think about it, like how many parents are just like moving all the obstacles out of their kids'
Too many.
way.
Too
And
many.
then like my thing is like, how can I throw a huge tree in front of them on the path that they're going to struggle to climb over without them knowing that I put it there and with them knowing for sure that I'm not going to come and help them.
Wow. Yeah, no, I think that's huge. And I resonate with that a lot. I talked to my wife about this, and I want my kids to love me. I want them to like me, especially as they get older. But without a doubt, if there needs to be a common enemy that all of my kids have collectively that will help them to achieve success, I will be the common enemy. I will bring the adversity that will help them to level up. I'll do it strategically. I will do it with love, but they will love each other and they will achieve success in their own mind. And I think that's really important, the way that you have implemented that with your family. Yo, thanks for listening this far. It's at this point in the episode that I want to talk about Streetwise franchising, teaching, training, building. Streetwise franchising. As a franchise consultant, it's my job, it's my absolute pleasure, and it's my mission to help aspiring entrepreneurs find, launch, and build their ideal business. I've been a franchise owner for almost a decade. I know what it means to struggle. I know what it means to build a team. If you're ready to get off of zero, if you're ready to build something for yourself, visit streetwisefranchising.com. Let's get the conversation started. Don't wait until tomorrow to build your future. It starts today. Streetwise franchising. Stay humble, stay hungry, stay streetwise. Let's get back to the episode.
How many kids?
So I've got 3 kids. I've got a 6-year-old boy, a 3-year-old boy, and then an almost 2-year-old little girl.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Oh man, you got all the good stuff right in front of you.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's going to be awesome.
Yeah, man.
So do you have a set of family values?
So my wife grew up with a family creed that they had memorized. We have not created our own yet, but that it's interesting that you just said that, because that's been a topic of discussion now that my oldest is 6 and he's in elementary school and the younger one follows him everywhere. It's becoming more and more important to us that we build one for ourselves. So no, but it's very timely that you would ask me that.
Yeah, so we have a set of family values.
Okay.
And it's and I think people need to make it whatever they make out of it. And sure, did I lean into that from the business coaching and training that I was going to, purpose, mission, vision, values. As I was building my business over 25 years, building a franchise business, AdvantaClean, I was also building a family. So, as I was coaching my kids in 30 seasons of sports, I was also learning to coach hundreds and hundreds of franchise owners and building their small team. So the line blurs between business and personal. And I think you can lean into the personal side and the business side, and you can pull these things together and do what makes sense. So, if you read, I got 2 books out there. One I wrote when I was about finished coaching called Hey Coach. And I've got 3 different sets of values in there. It's, player rules, coaching, parental expectations, and coaching commitments. And I have a little tome of, 6 or 7 little things that are expected from there. In discernment, I share my family values, live fun, be humble, respect others, be a servant, fail fast and move forward, always trust yourself to take chances, always do more than is expected. Like, okay, so now let's say you're faced with a decision and you're a 13-year-old kid. Well, at least you have a set of boundaries, is what I'm doing respecting others? Am I being a servant leader in this situation? am I making a fear-based decision where I'm not trusting myself to take chances? Failure's fine. Just do it, at 100 miles an hour. Am I doing more than is expected in this situation? Am I looking and saying, well, I'm doing just as much as Susie is, or am I saying I'm going to do more than is expected because that's, you can see the practical and tactical applications to it. A lot of people are going to have all kinds of different things inside of that, but it's basically this statement of saying, applied to a challenge, an opportunity, or situation in my life, do I have a set of do I have a first filter to go through by which to filter this decision through, that's gonna eliminate a bad decision before it even gets started? Because honestly, it's almost more important what you say no to in life than what you say yes to.
Man, facts again. And I like the way that you said that, because our businesses have all been run on EOS for years. And so core values have been huge. And I made our core values as one of the first things that we did. And it really turned the corner on how we ran our team, how we hired people. And if I'm
Sure.
looking at my core values, a lot of them could be, if not all of them, could be translated over into my family as well. There's a lot of correlation. And the whole work-life balance thing is a topic I talk about a lot. I like the term work-life integration now,
Hmm.
because it does get muddied. But I'm curious, you're talking about the books, and I didn't know about the Hey Coach. I did just order Discernment on Amazon, so it's on the
All
way.
right.
And I'm curious about your process for writing a book, and how do you get the topic? Do you write out the outline? Does it take you years? Can you pop out a book in 6 months because you feel super ambitious and motivated because it's coming from your spirit? Like, how does that work for you?
So the process on those two books was a little bit long.
Okay.
And I think as I go forward, I've got 3 or 4 working titles right now. So
Nice.
as I'm building content, like I see it's going to come together much faster and much differently. There's a
Okay.
couple of things you need to understand about writing a book. First of all, uh, it's not everything you know about everything. Like that's one of the things, I wanted to put everything in, and, books have to kind of stay on track, and it needs to be just enough to get the point across, and then just enough lessons inside of that. I started writing books. The first one I wrote was because when I know that I'm leaving a season of my life, I want to document it so that anything that I learned that I think is valuable, other people can have access to. So the first one, I had coached over 30 seasons of kids sports, man. And I really, I built an entire drawer full of content around our philosophies of coaching kids. And I also think that, our children are our greatest asset. We need to pour into them as early and often as possible.
Amen.
And so, I had developed and it didn't matter what the sport was: basketball, football, baseball. The story is based in baseball. It just seemed to make the most sense. It was easier for what I wanted to get across. But basically, I developed a system to where I would be very inclusive with all the parents. So, on one hand, coaches say, leave your kids, stay in the parking lot, don't talk to them. I've got them. Don't uncoach when I'm trying to coach them. I think that's all wrong, man. I think like you invite all the parents in. Like we would have a team of 22 football players, man, and we would have 20 coaches. And it would be all the parents, because I would give the parents a role of responsibility, and I would be inclusive with them. They'd be invited to our team meetings because I wanted them to see what I was pouring into these kids. So we would really bring the coaches in, or the parents in, and make them included, because everything good that you do with kids, if the parents aren't aligned, gets undone in the car ride on the way home. They start
Man.
getting jealous about why are you getting, there's only one football, people, you can't all carry it. So, why aren't you throwing it? Why aren't you catching it? Why aren't you carrying it? Why, what about this kid? What about that kid? So, I mean, I guess if I was going to bottom line it, this isn't a coaching podcast, but like if I was going to bottom line it, is, we would we would install everything. We would work straight fundamentals for the first third of the season, and we would install everything that we wanted to install and just work on. We wouldn't worry about winning or losing as much as like getting these fundamentals installed, getting the kids in the right spots. Each position had 5 to 7 little things that they needed to know, to be like the most 5 to 7 important things about a position: alignment, responsibility, technique, situations, whatever it was. We would just drill into these kids. So like they would know this stuff. Now we've got the pieces, and then we put it together in the middle, and then at the end of it, at the end of the season, we would turn it over to the kids. Meaning, just assume that the coaches and parents all get stuck in traffic and nobody can make the championship game. You could do it yourself. And the one vision was we would all be the best we could be on the last day of the season, whenever that was. So if you lost in the playoffs, that's the last, you had to play your best. So it was kind of about peaking. It was about putting it all together and then peaking at the end of it. And man, we won so many championships. And the reason I wrote the book is because I would have all these parents and coaches come to me and be like, well, how do you do it? And I'd be like, they'd want to know, like, what's your offense? What's your defense? How do you do it? I said, no, this is my process. I build a team where kids play fast, loose, and happy. I build a team where kids play for each other. I build a team where all the other parents, if they have a choice, like we'd go to the draft and it'd be like 11 notes. All the kids wanted to be on our team. I mean, we would coach them so well. But if you watched our kids warm up in football, for example, the other kids would be like lined up in a line doing push-ups on the coach's whistle. Ours would look like a college warm-up. I mean, our quarterbacks knew what they were supposed to do. Our defensive backs and linebackers were taking pass drops. They were getting their pads loose. Like they owned it. And when you get into a game and it's close, like that's what breaks the ties. Like the kids being fully bought into each other and understanding what they need to do and knowing that they own it. They're not doing it to please us. They're doing it to serve the team and to serve their teammates. Like that's the difference that made a difference. And at the end of the year, we had a team, gosh bless them. They beat us like a drum in the second game. They scored 250 points and they gave up 6, which is to us, right? 6, and we put up 6. They shut out everybody else. And they had a film crew come to the championship game, and 2 years in a row, we beat them and that second year, they're like, there's no way it's going to happen again, because they were stacked and loaded, and we beat them 8-0 in overtime. We got the extra 2. We beat them 8-0 in overtime. And it was just like, but I mean, like, it was like our kids were a better squad. So anyway, I wrote this book, and the working title was The Popsicle Plan. And Joe Gibbs' family went to the same Christian high school that our kids went to, and we coached in the same summer little Christian coaching league. And the Gibbs are an incredible family. They've had some really tough times with both of his sons passing away very young, and they're 49 years old, and, over the last 3 to 5 years. So they've had a lot of tragedy in their family, which they don't deserve because they're such incredible people. But Coach Gibbs was coaching one of the other teams. And so we had this jamboree, and which, before the season, it's kind of a scrimmage and everybody gets 10 plays. And like they creamed us. Like they were just throwing bombs, and they had timing routes and all of this stuff. So what they didn't know is we had 2 kids that were out on vacation that were probably our best players. And then we played them in the first game of the year. And what we did was I said, well, we're going to take away what they do the best. So we spent all week teaching our kids how to jam these receivers. They had a fastest kid in the league. And we made sure that he didn't get outside. The best way to stop speed is before it gets started. And we ended up hitting him in the mouth. We're up 14-0 at half. And I'm like, we're going to catch the best of it because it's Joe Gibbs, and he's going to make adjustments. He's a Hall of Fame coach here. So they come back in the second half, and it's all them, and it's 14-13. There's about a minute and a half left in the game. They got the fastest, best kid in the league back there. We're getting ready to punt on 4th down out of our own 11-yard line. I know we're going to lose if we punt it to him because he's going to run it in, or they're going to run it in. And so we had put in this freeze tap play where the quarterback taps the center and he just walks through the line. And we picked up the 4th and 4 and we got it and the time ran out and we won the game. Later in the year, he's on this ESPN or Speed Street or something, and they're showing him coach. They're talking about his coaching, and they're showing the kids and all that. And they're like, "Wait, you're 7-1. How did you lose a game?" And he said, "We got out coached." So
Wow.
that was
That's awesome.
yeah. But I mean, it was so anyway. So later, I'm at a charity event for veterans that Bank of America was putting on, and I'm walking out and by myself, and I hear, "Hey, coach," from behind me, and it was Coach Gibbs, and he was walking out of the charity event, and I thought, "Hey, coach," I said, "Coach is such an honor. It is the highest order when I see kids today that I coached, man, and I hear, 'Hey, coach,' or something like that." So, he said that, and we just said a few words and whatever, and we went on our way. But I'm like, that's the title of the book, so I changed it to that.
That's awesome,
Yeah.
man, and that's so true. I still interact with some of my old players because I coached for the first 4 years after college, and then as I started my entrepreneurial journey, I did some coaching here and there, and to be recognized by a previous player and for them to still acknowledge you as their coach, because it's such an important role in an individual's life to having a coach. And that actually leads me perfectly into my next line of questioning for you, because I know your athletic background. I now know more of your coaching background, but on the business side, I've heard you talk about the Vistage groups, the EO, the business coaching. How important is the business coaching in building yourself up as a leader of people, of building systems and teams? And how has that played into your life?
The day after you incorporate your business, you need to start looking for a bigger room.
Mm.
It's you can't more people should know that. It took me forever to build my businesses because we were so proud that we did it with no help, and we figured things out. And you know what? Okay, it's good to be resilient. It's good to be innovative. It's good to do things your own way. But reinventing basic systems and processes, reinventing basic leadership disciplines that are everywhere for you to learn from, that's completely unnecessary. And, you can read books and implement and all of that, but until you find a bigger room for yourself, and by the way, there's always a bigger room. There's always a bigger room. So if you're starting a business right now, you can look at, you probably can't get into EO because I think it's $1 million volumes to get into Entrepreneurs Organization, which is a Vern Harnish creation modeled after YPO, which is like 22 million to get into that.
Wow.
There's other ways to qualify, but like if it's just straight sales, you got to have a $22 million organization. You got to lead it, own it, found it, whatever it is. But like Vistage is something that everybody can get into. And it's a CEO organization that is in every city in this country. And you go for a full day with 16 other business owners, and you spend a day of education, training, problem solving. And then typically you get a one-on-one coaching with whoever your chair is. So pick a good chair that's relevant to your business. And I mean, I when I started franchising our business to the public, I joined Vistage with the guy who had built Husqvarna North America to $530 million through a dealership network. So here's a guy who had built a massive company through dealers, and I was building a franchise organization. So much of the wisdom that Dave had for me was applicable directly to what I was trying to build. And I was in it for 9 years. And I'm a member of YPO. I'm also a member of CEO. I'm also a member of Strategic Coach. I'm also a member of the Genius Network. So and these are expensive things to do, but the big cost is in not doing it. So I think investing in yourself, getting in bigger rooms, inside of your consulting organization, you have people that have been doing this for 30 years, man, and they're some of the best in the business. So getting into a peer group with those people, to the extent that you guys do that, is probably massive. I mean, it's probably why you joined the organization in the first place.
100%.
It's not just for the mechanics of what it does, but for who the people are inside of it.
Yeah, getting in the room is everything. And it's a
Yeah.
big part of why I launched this show. It's a big part of what I'm doing on my own in franchise consulting, in just building this business. If I can get into the biggest and best rooms, I will inevitably level up as well. I'm so curious though, man. You talked about your painting company when you were just getting started. You've alluded to AdvantaClean, and you've talked about, I mean, we all know you, Homefront. I'm curious about that process though, man. I mean, AdvantaClean, was that 24 years that you built that thing before you sold it?
Yeah, 94, February 10th, 1994, it started, and I sold it January 1st, 2019.
How much of your identity was built into that business, and did it take anything away from you whenever you sold it?
Well, I
Got
can
like a
tell
piece of you
you,
left?
I mean, the farther that the more I disentangled my identity from it, the better the business did.
There it is. Okay.
So, yeah, I mean, when you're making decisions, like, are you making lifestyle decisions? Are you making ego-based decisions around things? Or are you truly objective about the business and you're making the best decision in the interest of the business, regardless of, whether it's going to, change the way that you get to identify with the business or something like that. Now, personal brand's a big thing. And I am much more likely to engage with a company if I know something about the founder and I believe that they're successful, or I believe that they're, I think a lot of how they do what they do. So a lot of that translates to the business, at least, from a optics perspective and things like that. But yeah, I mean, it was think about it. Like, I went, seasons of life that we go through. I just watched Arnold Schwarzenegger's documentary on Netflix.
Okay.
The guy had 4 lives, man. He was an incredible power lifter, and he went to the top of that. Then, actually, before he could get his acting going, he was a real estate developer. Office buildings,
Interesting.
apartment buildings. Yeah, he was sitting in an office, man. Like, I don't know where he got those button-up shirts, but he got them.
He got
And
him.
they were the buttons were under stress. I'm telling you. But like, he was there, and then, as he was getting his acting thing going, and he had the whole accent that he had to overcome, and people seeing him as this or that or the other thing, but like, he kept after it. Then he was competing with Sylvester Stallone to be the #1 leading man through that era, and then he went into politics. So, you have these different series of lives that you go through. And I mean, look, I went from being an athlete to a painter to a restoration contractor to a franchisor, and now to a multi-platform, multi-brand franchisor, and whoever knows, podcast or whatever, whoever knows what's left. And you have to, there was a point where, the you decide that the business has to be bigger than you. And it's probably in that when, we had 1 or 2 locations, and I was using the business as, to pay for myself and to feed my family. And I'd wrapped a big job around myself. And that's what people do, is like, you're in it and you're doing all this work. And that's really the stumbling block. I'd say 99% of people never get out of that, because there's so many small businesses out there. And then really it's like, all right, well, is this business me doing the work, doing the accounting, doing the estimates, doing this and the other thing? Or is my job to build this business and give away what I know the best as fast as possible? I mean, my job's not to do the accounting. My job's to make sure the accounting is to build a system where the accounting gets done.
There
My
it
job's
is.
not to do the estimate. My job is to build a system of people and tools and management where estimates get done. And it's only then when you can start to scale. And it's with all of the education and coaching and podcasts and content out there, people still get stuck. And because it's hard, right? And people will build a business up to their own level of It sounds bad, but like people build a business up to their level of incompetence. I mean, like once you say this is like as far as I can possibly go in letting things go, because what happens is when you give stuff away, you immediately start getting hurt and you start getting disappointed and you start getting stolen from, and people don't care as much as you care, and nobody's going to be as good as you.
Yep.
So that's a whole nother level of um, existence. It's a whole nother level of perspective. And then it kind of comes back to, am I really here to build things that improve the world? And if so, then I'm willing to go through these personal problems in exchange for a greater good, which is building, the greatest company that you can possibly build that's going to serve people and feed people and, create economic growth and expand our middle class and create generational wealth on Main Street USA. Because if we lose our middle class in this country, then we're all screwed. It never goes well when all the money piles up in one end of the bell curve and more people go to the other end where there is no money. Like it doesn't go well. Like we're the greatest country in the world because we have had a strong, innovative, entrepreneurial middle class. And, when I sold my business at 50, like that was the one thing that brought me back. I mean, I'm sitting here in 2020 and I'm like, what can I do if everything that I need to do from here on needs to drive me deeper into my purpose, then like, what can I do with what I know to make the greatest impact with the greatest number of people aligned with what I think is the most important?
Oh, I love that. As we enter into the fourth quarter here, I want to talk about Homefront a little bit and maybe what are some key differentiators between Homefront and other similar franchisor parent company models of multiple brands in the property service space specifically?
Yeah, I like the question, what's different? Um, I will say, like, there's this big movement now where people are talking about, we're this and we're that and we're different. And, you know, I think it's really bad form to try to make yourself look good by insinuating that everybody else is bad.
Mm.
And there's a lot of that going on right now, and we are all responsible in franchising to expand the reach and relevance of the franchise sector and to do it responsibly, right? And there's a lot of great companies out there in franchising. And I think Charlie Chase said it best. I mean, he's a great leader. And when he was at the IFA, he said, people ask me when, hey, I've got a painting franchise I'm growing. You probably hate that because they own CertaPro Painter. I think they were $1 billion, and he grew that as from a college painter out of their college painting business. And he said, no, he said, the only thing that I ask you is that you do it well, that you do it with excellence, because franchising is a business model. It's not an industry, it's a model. And, the more that technology enables us to centralize things and do things automatically, the more a franchisor can provide in terms of real value. And so when we looked at Homefront Brands, like though we wanted to create the platform that, first of all, was extremely well led. So our entire C-suite, I mean, our president of franchising, 4 countries, 5 different C-level roles in multi-billion-dollar brands, rolled out franchise finance for Citibank to 14 countries, 35 years, grew up in Australia's largest home building franchise family. So, he leads a lot of our COO, a lot of our operations and our leadership of our brand presidents. Our brand presidents have all built national brands before. And, great, strong row of presidents. I mean, our chief legal officer is service master, our marketing executive, our learning management executive is one of the best we could find in the industry. Our CX person who runs our call center and our technology on the customer acquisition side, was one of the early employees at Coupang. It's a $115 billion Korean company, moved to Korea to do it. So like we literally went all over the globe and we said, if we could put the best executive team together who knew what excellence looks like, in franchising and then where applicable in other areas, then, So that was the first thing that we did. So, it's first who, then what,
There it is.
it's first who, then how, right? So we knew
Yeah.
that. So I had to be comfortable writing the check for that and having faith that, one day that, it was going to make sense. So we did that. Our CFO was the CFO of the Carolina Panthers football team. The NFL is a big franchise. So, everything that he learned from how New York helped the teams benchmark and, look at opportunities and gaps, like we bring that to our franchise network. And then we had to look at conforming brands. If we really truly want a smaller number of large franchisees, then our brands needed to have a certain level of average unit volumes and sales. It had to have certain performance requirements that you can see in the item 19s that we have. And, we needed to think that we could organize or at least take advantage of an identifiable a total, TAM, total addressable market, and that we would be able to compete in there for customers, and we would be able to do so. So, our brands had to be right. We had to be really careful about the brands that we brought in. And then, invest in really, if you want to iterate, when you first start a business, like a franchise, it's like, well, it's kind of big chunky blocks: staffing, supply, marketing, team, all of these big things. But then as the years go on, are you part of a platform that's going to help you get 50 basis points better here, 2% better here, buy down? Like, are you going to constantly be able to be improving your business? So we made millions of dollars investment in technology. In fact, we were just named as Microsoft's small and medium business partner for 2024 with response to their
Okay.
AI, with their
Let's
Copilot
go.
rollout
That's
for their
awesome.
AI tool Copilot. So, they're looking at us because of the investment we made. Plus, they also like the way we're innovating inside of our technology, really extending their environment in a very secure way, but also deeper into the franchise network. And in doing that, plus the other systems that we've implemented, you said, what's the difference? I think we're one of the only franchise platforms. I don't know this to be true, but we are a franchise platform where it's very difficult to do if your franchise platform acquires big brands, where all of our data flows through the same point of sale CRM system and into a similar data lake. So we already have machine learning and AI running across our data set. So every day as we're acquiring customers and doing business, our businesses are getting automatically smarter. And it's very difficult to do. Most platforms are a compilation of different businesses, but because the switching cost is too high, you can't acquire a $300 million business and then go to all the franchise owners and say, we're gutting all your systems and want you to use
Yeah.
this.
Yeah.
So can you put hooks in there? Yeah, but like, it's complicated to get everything,
No doubt.
to where you can get pure relativity, comparison, benchmarking and stuff. So, usually the multi-billion-dollar companies have relative dashboards across the franchise networks and stuff. Well, we already have in each brand, radically transparent relative dashboards that they can see their performance by all the different things, including their chart of accounts, comparing all
Super
of their.
cool.
Yeah, man. So like, we've done that well. It's not perfect. It's not done. We're still, we have our challenges just like everybody
Yeah.
else does, because we've had such rapid growth. But I think those are some of the things that we've done really well, as Homefront Brands, and we're excited about the foundation that we're building on.
Oh, I love that. I think the acknowledgement of the struggles is super important. I think when franchisees feel gaslighted or that their struggles aren't acknowledged, I think that's when things can get a little dicey. Do you feel like there's any threats to the franchise industry as a whole? I mean, I've been a franchisee going on my 9th year and added multiple brands and am now a franchise consultant. So I've got my hand in this thing, but I am learning, I mean, immensely every day. And there's a much bigger picture than what I see. I mean, I've never been to IFA. You've spoken there. Like, so what threats maybe are at the industry that people need to be aware of, that people need to be working towards, kind of navigating through?
Contributing to FranPack, which is our industry association political action committee is important, even if you can
Okay.
give $1 a day, $365 a year, because we are constantly fighting battles that protect and preserve the franchise business model from things like joint employer law. I mean, if states can recategorize franchising as not an independent business model, but as one big business, then it really changes their ability to tax, to control, to really do things that offend the business model. So I think regulation is something that needs to be paid careful attention to, because we're a kind of a free enterprise, right? Franchise owners are business owners. Yes, they have to adhere to brand standards, but at the end of the day, like, they are independent business owners, and that needs to remain as such. So regulation is that. There are areas of our business that could probably use a little bit of regulation, around some of the disclosures and things like that, just to make sure that
Sure.
that people that are entering this great business model called franchising, that they have a clear-eyed view of how things work early. Our disclosure documents are already 250 pages. They're basically
Yeah.
carbon copies
Things are
across all
thick.
the different brands. So I mean, there are very high standards that the Trade Commission has put on us for disclosure, and it's almost all in there. But I think, like, self-regulating ourselves, doing things that make sense for consumers, not pushing into gray areas, where I mean, there's a huge impetus to do accelerated franchise development, but man, there's a huge
Interesting.
responsibility. Yeah, I mean, there's a huge responsibility. Well, look, man, private equity waves the flag and says profits are here. So people are motivated now to build in that way. And I think that's fine, to the extent that you're willing to really invest in the back end and invest in the people. I mean, we launched 70 businesses in the fourth quarter. Well, I had to hire 60,
Wow.
like, yeah. So, like, in a new business, a new franchise needs something every day.
Oh yeah.
So we have 60 people at our home office just to meet the demand that we promise these people.
Sure.
And things, as you're growing that fast, things still fall through the cracks, right?
No doubt.
But we do a net promoter score every month, and our franchisees have the ability to give us feedback every month, and then we jump all over it and make sure that, like, we're not missing anything in the way that we're developing these brands. But there's also, we got a few brands that, like, really need to be developed really quickly, because there's market opportunity that people need to take advantage of. So franchising is great from the ability to really hit hard and hit fast into a market that's underdeveloped, and to really take advantage of. We got a couple of brands like that right now that we're first, or we're going to be first or near first to market.
Man, I could just I could keep going, man. We're getting close on time, but this has been a huge value add for me, and I appreciate your openness and just your ability to articulate such great wisdom. I usually end every episode by asking, how would you advise somebody to get off of zero? And if you wanna throw that in, then that's fine. But I'm gonna change it a little bit for you. I've never really asked it like this before.
All
But
right.
how do you oftentimes, especially in an entrepreneurial journey, we have to get off of zero. We have to take that leap of faith. But then about 2 to 3 steps in, we get punched in the face and we get kicked in the stomach. How do you advise or coach somebody to push through that pain? I'm a big believer that pain leads us to our purpose. But a lot of people, when they get hit, they quit. And Simon Sinek he says, start with why, but how do you stay with why? How would you advise somebody that maybe has begun their entrepreneurial journey, or they've taken that leap, but man, it just got really, really hard and now they're scared?
Yeah. So what it comes down to is, you you have to get to a place that you realize that it's not fatal, and that the journey is going to be infinite, and that everything that you do is going to be accretive to whatever it is you choose to do. If you're in a business right now and you've started it, the way that you win the next opportunity is by succeeding in the one that you're in today. So you might realize, and many of us do, I was on the phone with a guy yesterday and he's telling me about his business, and I could tell him right now it wasn't going to scale, right? But he's all passionate and he's, this, that, and the other thing. And my best advice to him would have been to do something different, but what that business owner had learned by going through everything that they had is going to be accretive to their next thing. So if you just realize that, the season that you're in is transitional, but you need to make it transformational.
Wow.
And you've got to, everything that you do, everything that you learn, every person that you help, every connection that you have, if you're organizing it that way, then it's going to be accretive to wherever you end up. Very few people, Dan Martell is a huge name out there, and I was listening to consuming his content this weekend. The dude failed a lot. Up to including, driving a car through a house and, trying to pull a gun and he couldn't get it out because he went to jail.
Wow.
So he started below zero, and, and then failure, and then boom, and he's in his early 20s and he hits it, right? So, you've got to get those out of the way. So the faster that you run into the wall, the sooner you're going to figure out how to climb over it. And success is not going around the wall and it's not backing up from the wall, but it's finding a way to climb over it. So you really got to set yourself up for, and then a lot of people think of business as a crock pot, right? And I think this is what gets people disappointed. They think, well, I'm going to put in 3, 4, 5, 6 months to this thing. And then, man, it's just going to be a money machine for me. And I'm going to Rachel Ray it, man. I'm going to set it and forget it. And it's just going to keep paying me. Maybe there's businesses like that out there. I don't know. Maybe an actual vending machine business would be like that. But generally, you're always going to have these challenges that you're going to have in business. So you just have to realize that when these things come up and you get punched in the mouth, there is always a solution. It might be expensive. It might hurt. It might not be what you want to do, but your job is just to do whatever it takes to minimize it, to overcome it, to put it to bed, to put it to rest, to learn from it. You're not failing, you're learning. So and then what do you learn from it? And then you have to adjust your course. It's real simple, right? Think of, I'll give you an analogy. I learned this from a guy years ago. It's called the T analogy, TEA. And if you draw it in a triangle, you put the T at the top, you put the E to the left, and you put the bottom to the right. Well, you're going to think about what you're going to do based on what just punched you in the face. Okay. You're going to execute against that new plan, and then you're going to account for results. You're going to measure and see what the difference is. And then you're going to take that information and think about it again. Think, execute, account. Think, execute, account. And the faster that you can iterate through that is you're basically saying, this is how people learn. So look, and if you can't overcome it, if you can't separate, then maybe business owner is just not for you. I think it can be for everybody if you can frame it the right way. But then it comes down to, again, how big's your battery? How often can you do something? Right back to where we started. How long can you tolerate? How resilient can you be somebody that you're not naturally meant to be for the greater good of an outcome that you desire?
Man, yeah, because if you're not in alignment with who you truly are, and if you don't have the right vision for what you're trying to build, or your vision is skewed, when those obstacles come, man, you're not gonna have the capacity. That battery is gonna get. I use the cup analogy a lot. Your cup is not only going to be emptied, but you're going to have so many holes poked in the bottom that's going to be impossible.
That's right.
You have to, before you start the journey, you've got to have some sort of an alignment with what you're doing and your vision. And it doesn't necessarily, the widget doesn't always matter, but what can the widget do to help you build the life that you want to lead? So, man, that's beautiful. Mr. Jeff Dudan, I appreciate you so much. What did I miss? What did somebody that was actually a good podcast interviewer would have asked you that I fumbled over? Anything?
I think it was perfect.
We hit on all the stuff. Man, well, I appreciate you. Streetwise Nation, listen to this one twice because Jeff Dudan has a wealth of knowledge and there was so much value here. As always, stay humble, stay hungry, stay streetwise. And if you're looking for any additional information on Homefront Brands or the books, Discernment, Hey Coach, can we get them on Amazon? Is there any other special place you want us to go look for those?
Oh, you can get them right there.
All right.
You pay your money, I'll get my 11 cents.
There we go. There we go. Stay humble, stay hungry, stay streetwise. Peace.
All right, right on. Take care.
All right, everybody. That's a wrap. Thank you so much for making it to the end. Hey, if this episode added any value to your life at all, please like it, share it, give me a 5-star review. It's the only way that this show is going to gain traction and help more people achieve their dreams. If you're ready to start your franchise journey, visit streetwisefranchising.com. Let's set up a time to talk. Hit me up on LinkedIn. Until next time, stay humble, stay hungry, stay streetwise. Peace.